So here we are, bringing you weather from Southern California. It's a whopping, hang on, let's see, 68 degrees outside, and it's December 11th, I think, no, December 10th. What do you guys have to say about that? Anyways, getting on to the point of this video, I'm actually doing a remake of my video I uploaded a year ago, which is best first motorcycle. The reason I'm deciding to redo it is because it's been a year, I've been riding a while now, I've ridden several bikes and my opinions have changed. Included in those bikes are obviously my R6, other years of the R6, CBR 600, Ducati 1199 Panigale R, R1. So I've ridden in quite a few, you know, and my Ninja 250. So I've ridden quite a few 600s, liter bikes, whatnot. So I'm somewhat diverse. So yeah, so I'm just gonna talk about, you know, what I think. Should you get a 250, 600 liter bike, depending on, you know, your age, your financial position, your size. If you're a little bit of a bigger guy, normally it's better to get a bigger bike because 250 is not gonna be able to pull you much. So moving on. Really, the best first bike is a personal decision. It is a decision you have to make, and you have to think about it. You know, it's not just someone can say, oh, you should get a 600, oh, you should get a liter bike, or oh, you should get a 250. Or, you know, what if you want to get a dual sport versus a street bike? That's a completely different area, and we're not going to talk about that. If you like dual sports, get a dual sport. If you like street bikes, then get a street bike. But the thing you have to ask yourself is, am I financially able to afford a 600 or liter bike? 600s and liter bikes will tend to be more expensive than a 250. I mean, if we're talking brand new or used, a brand new 600 is probably, you know, $12,000 or $10,000. Liter bike's gonna be around $15,000 depending on what you get. A 250 brand new is $5,000. Or if you get off Craigslist like I did, I only paid $2,300 for my Ninja 250. And then I sold it for $2,800. So I made $500 off the thing, and I just cleaned it up, put some HIDs in it and whatnot. But the point is that, are you financially able to get a 600, you know, or other bikes? I was not financially able to get a bike larger than a 250. I couldn't afford it. So thus I started on a Ninja 250. And do I regret it? No, not at all. I don't. I got one that was a little scratched up, had some scratches on the fairings, and you know what? I learned a lot on that Ninja 250 that I'm glad I didn't have to learn on this 600. I made a lot of stupid mistakes, and I've ridden with people that have gotten 600s liter bikes as their first bike. For example, somebody I know that just got an R6. We went riding together, and it was his first day, and I was hauling butt through the corners, and he went off the road twice. No, 3 times. And the bike was okay, he didn't drop it or hurt it at all, but the point is that he was going past his ability. When you have so much engine under you, it's really easy to push it and to go past your own ability, which is where the responsibility factor comes in, and you have to ask yourself, can I be responsible? Can I take it easy? You have to go slow and learn the bike. 80% of riding is learning your bike. 20% is navigating traffic, because really, by the time you get a bike, you've probably already been driving a few years, so you know how traffic works. It's only slightly different from driving to riding, you know what I mean? So, Jesse, he started on R1. That's his first street bike, even though he had ridden dirt bikes many times. He was like, he did a lot of dirt bike stuff. Anyway, so he was able to handle it fine. The horsepower wasn't a big deal, but in the corners, he almost went off the road. I swear to God, he almost went off the mountain. It scared the crap out of me. And that's just because people don't know how to lean their bikes over when they first get it. It's a weird concept, and it's scary. It really is. You have to learn your bike, and you have to learn how to corner. Now, that being said, if you do crash, it's not as big of a deal on a 250. I mean, the damage is less because you're probably going slower, and it's just a 250. It's a cheap bike. That's why it's a good reason to start on a 250. Just one of them. The other reason is that, you know, I mean, cool bike. A 250, it's like, hang on, I'm distracted now because the bike's there. It's about getting used to your bike. You have to get used to it. That's a lot of the the struggle. But once you're used to it, yeah, you can handle the power of a 600 or a liter bike just fine. It's not a big deal. But, you know, I mean, would you rather start on a 250 and not risk it, or start on a 600? That's a personal decision. That being said, if you're under 18, I do not recommend a liter bike. Absolutely not. 600, maybe, depends. I mean, if you're not paying for it, then yeah, it's not a big deal if you crash and whatnot. But the point is that it's just gonna be a lot easier to be stupid on a 600, do wheelies, go over 100 miles an hour. On a 250 or limited, and you can learn the road first and learn the bike and how bikes even work. I mean, you don't know anything at first when you start riding. You really don't. And it's just all so foreign to you. So a 250 really allows you to do that without worrying about having 130 horsepower under you, or 180, or whatever the bike size is. We move on to the subject of different kinds of bikes. There's different kinds of sport bikes, or well, not really, different kinds of street bikes. So there's an R6, 600, CBR 600, ZX6R, you know, or there's an SV650. That's basically a tuned down 600, you know, but it's got a lot more bottom end torque. It's easier to ride, more forgiving, so if you make a mistake, it's not so critical or crucial. And you know, maybe that's the option to go. You really just got to ask yourself that. So what you got to do is you got to set a budget for how much you're going to spend, and include gear in that, because gear is expensive and you're going to want to get the right stuff. Don't ride without gloves, or without a helmet, or out without boots. Don't be a squid. And so then you got to say, okay, well then how much can I spend on the bike itself? Should I get it used off Craigslist, or should I get it new? What's the insurance going to cost? Insurance is a huge deal. Insurance on the R6, if it's my primary with full coverage, is over 200 bucks a month. It's ridiculous. I'm just paying for liability, and it's 70 bucks a month. That's my primary. So that is all stuff you have to consider. I mean, it's a very big, largely discussed topic, and people say, oh, you should start on a 250. Oh, you should start on a 600. Oh, you weigh 350 pounds. You should start on a liter bike. Not necessarily. It depends on the person. There's a lot of stuff to consider, and it pertains, or it depends on your situation, you specifically. So don't let anybody else make the decision for you. You have to make it yourself. And it's a cool bike, Ducati, Turbignoni exhaust. Maybe you want to start on something like that. That thing's got a lot more bottom end than this R6. This R6 is all top end. It's all woo. No, this is how the R6 is. It's and it just screams at the top end. So I'm trying to make this video relatively short and get to the point, but I'm also trying to get you to think about some things that I didn't think about, and now that I know, you know. Another thing to consider, on a 600, I have a steering stabilizer, and it's very crucial, because if you're going 100 miles an hour or in corners and you hit a bump and your steering turns, then you're going to get some serious speed wobble, crazy speed wobble sometimes, tank slappers, and that's just really bad, you know. And it's really easy to do on a 600. If you do a wheelie and bring it down and the handlebars are slightly crooked without a steering stabilizer, your bars are going to be all over the place possibly. So, and then liter bikes. Should you ever get a liter bike as your first bike? I say no, for the most part. I mean, like I said, Jesse, he's like 30. He's my brother's friend, and he started on R1, which is the R1 I rode. And it's a lot like the R6. I mean, the only big difference is it weighs more. It's a lot bigger of a bike. There's just more to it. And it's got a lot more bottom end power. He said when he rode my 600, that was just like, it felt like he's giving it a lot of gas and it's just not going, you know. And you know, that's somewhat true because he weighs a lot more than me, but in the same sense, it's gonna have a lot more bottom end, which is better for some people. If you're doing a lot of freeways, then you want that bottom end to get around, you know. You don't want to have to shift it down 3 times just to get some power going. But then when you do get to the high RPMs, it's a rape day. It's ridiculous. Those things make so much power, it's not even funny. And like, moving on, my brother's Ducati 1199 Panigale R, that thing is ridiculous. Oh my gosh, dude. 3rd gear, you just give it enough gas, get to 11,000 RPMs, and it's like, what? And it's just bringing up the bike. like crazy, bringing up the front end, you know, and you're like, oh my gosh, that thing's just got so much torque and horsepower. But that's going a little off topic. But so, you know, ask yourself those things. If you're still in high school or you just barely have a job and you're making minimum wage, brand new bike's probably not a good idea. Probably better to get a used one. Should you get a 250 or 600? Well, that kind of depends on your personality. If you tend to be a little crazy and people say you're irresponsible, then don't get a 600 and go take the MSF course and see how you do. Ride somebody else's bike. Ride a 250, a 600, whatever it may be, and see how it feels. If you're scared to ride it, it's probably not a good idea to buy it. I mean, don't get me wrong. Everybody's got that initial fear. I did when I first rode my 600, you know? I mean, it's new, it's big. It's like, oh my God, this thing's huge. What am I doing, you know? And so, but when I was on my 250, I had rode my brother's Ducati for the first time. And the change was astronomical. Like, it was scary how big, how just crazy different that thing was. Not only in every aspect of power, but also just how it rode. It's so much less forgiving, extremely stiff suspension. And that's how your 600 is going to be. It's more stiff, not as bad as his bike, but it is going to be different than a 250 for sure. And every single bike is different. Gixxer's going to be different from a Yamaha. Although they're similar, they're still going to be different. So that's why you should also go to a dealership and sit on a few bikes and see what's comfortable. See what bike you like the most. If it's, hey, you know what, this Ninja 300 fits me the best, I think I should start on a smaller bike. And you know what, I've got $5,000 laying around doing nothing, then sure, go for it. But on the other side of that, John's friend Luis just crashed his Ninja 300 at Palomar in a corner. Once again, cornering is what gets people. And completely shaved off the side of it. Just the fairings are completely scraped up. His forks puking out oil. I don't think he bent them though. That may have been a maintenance thing. But brand new 300, spent $5,000, or he has a loan for $5,000 on it, and now he's, you know, $500 or more in the hole in fairings, just because he doesn't have any, or I mean, just because they're all scratched up and everything's damaged now. So it does happen. People do crash, and it's just a matter of how bad it's going to be. A good idea is to get frame sliders. I don't recommend no-cut frame sliders because they snap off, and I would know because I've crashed twice on this bad boy, and they've snapped off both times and end up damaging the fairings even more. So I recommend cut frame sliders. Cut your fairings. They fit good, protect your bike, they won't snap off. Very good brand is Woodcraft. That's what I'm using right now. Last thing, my brother has had a few of his friends die on motorcycles, on leader bikes, or whatever bike it may be, because they made stupid decisions. One guy was mad and pissed off, so he took off from the house screaming his bike, just taking it to red line. I don't know if it was 600 or 1,000, but went too fast, didn't make the turn, bam, hit a house and died. His other friend was on his R1 and was bringing it home for him because he couldn't take it for some reason. And he was trying to show off, went too fast, couldn't make the corner, tacoed the bike on a fire hydrant, and then bent a light pole. Like, imagine that, bending a light pole. That's crazy. Completely destroyed the bike. And, you know, that's why you gotta be smart. It happens, it really does. And I feel bad for him that he had to watch his friend die in front of him. And that's why it's good to, when you have that power under you, it's so easy to use it. It really is. And if you're smart and responsible and you can just take it easy, even though it's tempting to go fast, then hey, maybe you'll be okay. But you also have to consider the fact that on a bigger bike, leader bike or 600, the throttle is very twitchy. So if you hit a bump, I heard, you know, 6'4" Honda, I was watching his video on this kind of a thing. He said he hit a bump and the bike just like jolted forward, and then he locked the throttle back because his whole body went back. And so, I mean, that's the kind of stuff that happens. And on a less forgiving bike, it's just that it's less forgiving, it's more detrimental. So that's why I recommend, I'm not gonna say I recommend a 250, 600 or leader bike. I recommend you go for what you think you can afford, what you think you're responsible enough for, or what others say. If you have your best friend and he's saying, dude, you're not responsible enough for a leader bike, probably not a good idea to get a leader bike. And then go get some experience first. Take the MSF course, go ride some friend's CRF80 or whatever, small dirt bike. Get used to the clutch. That's a huge deal in it. Getting used to your bike. Get used to it before you go out on public roads and do stuff. And like I said, bigger bikes are less forgiving, more sensitive brakes, more sensitive power and throttle. So just take it easy, guys. Have a safe ride, and you know what, comment on your first bike and what your experiences were. And if you know people, like I said, I know several people that have gotten so close to crashing. I never really got close once to crash on my Ninja 250 because it was hard to, it really was. I mean, it's hard to go fast on it unless you're in a really sharp corner. So that being said, it does get boring after a while. So if you guys have any questions, please comment or send me a message. I'm more than happy to respond, and I try to respond to everybody. And rate, comment, subscribe. Please subscribe if you like this video and it helped you decide on what bike to get. And if you need any riding tips or whatever, like I said, comment. I'm more than happy to respond. Be sure to check out my Facebook and Instagram, guys. Oh, and Twitter. And that's it. Stay warm during the winter season. Have a Merry Christmas. Oh my God, antlers. What the hell?